I'm Julie Alexandria.
And I'm Jennifer Mercedes.
Between the two of us, we have over 2 decades of experience working in professional sports.
We're telling the stories of women who are at the top of their game in sports and business.
Welcome
to the locker room.
Today, our guest is Ishwara Glassman-Krein. She's the president of the Chicago Fire soccer team. Welcome to the show, Ishwara. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Julie.
Excellent. And again, this is Locker Room Talk. I'm Julie Alexandria alongside Jennifer Mercedes. And our guest today is Ishwara Glassman-Krein. So you're originally from San Diego native, a sports fan since the very beginning, but not necessarily a soccer fan per se. So how did you end up becoming one of the only female sports league presidents in 2021?
Yeah, so definitely always loved sports. Growing up, watched a lot of Padres baseball with my dad. We were season ticket holders for a long time. I know a lot of your fans are baseball fans in particular on this show. I watched a lot of Padres games with my dad, watched a lot of football, basketball. My mom's actually a black belt in karate, which most people find surprising. She's also a lawyer. But so we would watch some fight sports and stuff like that. I married a Canadian, so he watched a lot of hockey once I got to know him. But no, I didn't really watch soccer before I took this job. And it was interestingly, sometimes I wonder if this is something only a woman would do. One of the first things I said when I was interviewing this job was like, I don't really know anything about soccer. I said that to Joe Mansueto, the owner of the Fire. And I was really determined going through the interview process that I was very much going to be myself, that was going to be a precondition for my wanting to take this job, that I naturally have a bit of a big personality. And if that wasn't something that was a good fit, then that was okay. But I wasn't going to try to be something else. And he said very quickly, he's like, we have plenty of people in the office who know soccer. That's really not what this is about. This is about running a sports team. I'd never been on the team side, and being on the team side is like nothing else because you're really at the center of what people are passionate and care about. I mean, I took an Uber a couple of weeks ago, and the guy in the Uber, the driver first tried to convince me to teach in addition to being an Uber driver, he apparently teaches a college class. So he wanted me to guest lecture. And then he wanted to come work for us. He figured this all out because I was wearing a Chicago Fire mask. I mean, there aren't that many jobs where the guy in the Uber would be passionate about what you do. So that was pretty cool, just as a small microcosm of it.
That's amazing. And now you had some major challenges upon accepting the title of president of the team, from lackluster play on the field to dwindling attendance numbers to gaining front of jersey sponsorship, not to mention an entire global pandemic. How did you begin to tackle so many issues and break down what must have seemed like a behemoth task?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely took this job knowing that there was a lot of work to do. And that was what really excited me and interested me in it. I wouldn't want to do a job where everything was going beautifully. I mean, I grew up doing banking and management consulting, so I very much like to transform things. But simultaneously, there's no reason we can't be successful, right? We're in the third biggest market in the country with roughly 10 million people in the greater Chicago area, a young, diverse population, great corporations based in Chicago, an owner who cares about Chicago, is passionate about Chicago, does great philanthropic work, and is investing a ton in the team. And we have good people, so we will be successful. I think we'll look back in a certain number of years and we'll have great corporate partners, we'll have tons of people in Soldier Field, we'll be winning games, and it'll have felt really good to have built that. But I enjoy the process of building something.
You mentioned something just before about being very upfront, being very honest about the fact that you did not grow up a soccer fan and you didn't know much about the sport coming into this incredible job and opportunity. So first of all, how has that learning curve been going since you were and how much did that sort of prepare you in setting the stage when you come in honestly, so that you don't feel that you have to keep up this facade of, say, pretending to be someone who's super into the content?
Yeah, I mean, soccer was definitely a sport I knew I could learn to love, with the speed and the global nature of it and the athleticism and the fact that women play and kids play. I knew it was something I could grow to love. I mean, I'm certainly not going to be the person who goes to, the Chicago area fields and tells you which 13-year-old is going to be a next star for us. I don't, but simultaneously, I'm never going to get there. That's not really my job. I actually think it's been really good for me to come into this role with the humility of what I don't know. I think it's been a really wonderful opportunity for the people around me to teach me something they know. I've been traveling to every road game and going to all of our home games. I'm learning. Some of the people on our football side are nice enough to sit next to me at the games, and I'll ask questions, and I've learned. It's amazing to see just how international it is. I studied international relations in college, so I really do love that. I mean, last season we had players from 15 different countries on our first team roster. And it's just really amazing to get to spend time with them and talk about their backgrounds. I really have enjoyed that. I think I made a little bit of a mistake on the offside versus offsides. I guess I watch more hockey than soccer. So, I've been learning, but some of the fundamentals aren't that different than watching a hockey game or another sport. And I think fundamentally, of course, we are a sports team, but we're also a business, right? We have all of the same functions that many other businesses have. That being an expert in soccer necessarily doesn't mean that you can do finance and HR and legal and ticket sales. But I do want to learn more about soccer because it does give me credibility when I go and talk to sponsors or talk to season ticket holders. But most of them seem to find it pretty amusing that I don't know. And I don't know, I think I generally do tend to have a sort of outspoken personality. So I think people enjoy the fact that there's something I really know nothing about and have fun teaching me. So.
No, and you know what? There's something really about that as far as being aware of what your skill set is, but being also aware that you can still learn and you can still bring something to the table at any position. And I had this conversation with a friend of my sister's, and she was offered a position at a university, and she declined because she felt like she was not an expert at that specific subject. And I'm like, no, girl. I'm like, they offered you the position because they thought that you were able to do it. Do not ever take yourself out of something because you don't know what you can learn. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, I simultaneously would never want to take a job that I could walk in and do everything because there's no challenge in that. And I don't like to hire people into roles who've done that job for 20 years because you really want to hire people when you want to hire rock stars when they're on their upswing and for whom this is a new challenge and for whom they have something to prove. It doesn't mean they've never done anything similar. I mean, it was the same thing when I took my job at Verizon or Yahoo. It was the first time I'd been in charge of business development. And it's a little bit scary, but that's sort of where the growth and the good comes from being challenged.
Oh, that is the best advice that I think CEOs can follow, because we always talk about how, you need experience to get experience, and you don't ever get hired unless you have the experience. And how are people going to even get those experiences if you don't hire them? And that's even more so for people of color, women of color, right. And just a diverse pool that is out there that just doesn't have the opportunities because people don't have that mindset that you do. So I do think that is such an important piece of advice.
I think to your point, you're exactly right. I think women, especially in my experience, tend to question whether they're qualified for a job. There's been a lot of studies that men don't tend to, question whether they're qualified for a job as much. But it takes both sides. I think it takes people applying for jobs to believe in themselves, but it also takes people who are hiring to be willing to take a little bit of a risk. And I think I've been fortunate enough that people in my career have been, willing to look at some of my raw skills and figure that would translate well. But, I think my boss would say, also, you do want to hire someone who feels like they have something to prove in the role, that's going to work their butt off and try really hard because they want to succeed and believe that they can.
Yes, 100%. Now, being tasked to market and sell soccer in the United States continues to prove to be challenging. How do you chip away at that? And are you targeting specific demographics?
Yeah, I mean, I think the soccer demographic is really interesting. It's young, it's diverse, it's tech savvy. It fits in really well with sort of what you see people like on social media. It's fast paced. I mean, one of the things my kids really love about soccer is there's no breaks. They turn on the NFL, which I love watching, and I think there's about 10 minutes of action in an NFL game. I mean, soccer is essentially nonstop action. We have a lot of really great local homegrown stars from diverse backgrounds that we're working on marketing more and more. Our star goalkeeper is a 17-year-old Polish American. Kid is the wrong word. Player named Gabriel or Gaga Slonina. We have Brian Gutierrez, who's a local Mexican American player, who, both of whom are playing on the national team. So we've got a lot of really great stories that I think will be exciting. I hear your point a lot. People ask me this all the time: who's your target demographic? And I think I actually am going to refuse to answer it because I don't think anybody would ever ask the Bears that. The Bears would never say, I'm going after Latinos and soccer purists and Eastern Europeans or men or women or kids, because they want everybody in Chicago to love the Bears. And why can't we be just the same?
Oh, absolutely. And I would imagine that a big boost in that was moving to Soldier Field when you're playing at on an iconic stage. What's been the biggest benefit of that move?
Yeah. I mean, Soldier Field is iconic. It is centrally located. It feels big time to play in Soldier Field. There's no doubt, and it's centrally located, which being at SeaGeek Stadium, wasn't as centrally located. There's access to transit. I mean, it feels really special to walk through the tunnel at Soldier Field and play a game. There's no doubt about that. And I think for a lot of fans and for players, it's a bucket list item. I took one of my daughter's friends' families to a game, and we sat fieldside, which is my favorite place to sit. And her friend's father said to me, he goes, I could never sit here for a Bears game. Like, it's not even just about the money. The Bears don't seat anybody, on the field. So it's a really unique experience. Simultaneously, there are a lot of things about playing at Soldier Field that are really challenging, right? We don't control the building. The building is owned by the city, managed by the Parks Department. Scheduling is a challenge. The Bears play there. There are a lot of concerts. And field conditions are a problem. After 100 plus NFL-sized players play a game, it's hard for the field to look great the next day.
Now, we at La Vida Baseball talk about how MLB should adopt some of the sights and sounds of the fan experience of the World Baseball Classic, the Winter Leagues, MLS. Are there other engagements and in-game experiences that you'd like to adopt from the professional sports leagues?
Yeah, so one of the things that I have been doing when I go to tour our road games is I take a look at some of the new stadiums that have been built in MLS are really beautiful, but also look at some of their traditions. So, for example, we were in Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago, and they do a few things that I'd love to see us do. I mean, they have sort of a walk to the park where the supporters march a few blocks into the stadium and sing songs and chant. But then also, you see stadiums that were purpose-built for soccer really are authentic to their city. Like in Cincinnati, they're really proud of their German heritage. So you'll see they have like a beer hall, and they have bratwurst, and it feels very authentically and uniquely Cincinnati, which is something we'd like to do in Chicago. We did a pub crawl within Soldier Field a couple weeks ago, which was really great. We announced a craft beer deal with Revolution Brewing, so you'll see our marks and logos on beer cans, which has been really well received. They've been great partners. In terms of what I'd like to see us take from other sports leagues, I mean, I love sports. I go to sporting events whenever I can. I'd love to see us do, for example, make more of a spectacle of the entry walks of the players, talk a little bit more about where they're from and make that into more of a scene that you see like the NBA will do, for example. I'd love to see us do more entertainment at halftime, like you see the NBA and the NFL do. More tailgating. I mean, tailgating's huge in Chicago. Bears games, people were there 4 hours early. We'd love to build some of that in as well.
And I would say if you love sporting events, if you haven't done so already, take some time to head over to the Winter Leagues in the Dominican Republic, Latin America, because you will enjoy the experience. It is a party. Every night.
That sounds like fun.
Yes, there are dancers, there are people with drums and all types of instruments, and the food, just the environment is just, I say everyone, especially if you love sports, you should experience at least once in your lifetime.
I love baseball. I've been down to Dodger Town in Florida and stuff like that. So my dad and I love to go to baseball games together. That'd be fun. Especially, it might be nice to escape winter in Chicago for a couple of weeks too.
Yeah,
I'll put that on my bucket list. That's a good one. Thank you.
It is. It's like an entire party. Even the Mexican leagues. I mean, it is a whole new ball game, literally. Last question for you, Ishwara. Yeah. What advice would you give to your younger self if you could write her a note?
I don't know. I think I spent so much of my younger years sort of working really hard and chasing the future, working really hard, like a deferred gratification. And I think I turned 40 a few months ago, and I actually decided to myself, like, what am I waiting for? Like, this is, we only live once. Let's do the things that we want. And it's actually, I think COVID's been a part of that for all of us too, just really empowered me to be who I am, be the best version of myself, but not spend a lot of time or energy worrying about the things that I can't control. I had an executive coach last year when I was at Verizon who said to me, sounds a little bit Machiavellian, she's like, you really can't control who likes or love you. All you can do is, demand and work hard for their respect. And then people make their own decisions about who they like or love.
Oh, I love that. So often, I think, especially as women, we get so caught up in wanting to be liked and wanting to be accepted, especially if you're working in front of the camera. You just hope that the audience likes you. hope the producer, the executive likes you. But I love some of the gold coins that you bestowed on us today, and especially about giving people a chance. And that's what we here at Locker Room Talk, that's why Jen and I started this show, was because there really is no one place for women who want to get their foot in the door, where the jobs and opportunities are so limited at this point. I think it's getting better, but to have you say that, I think is so meaningful, that you are all about giving someone a chance to see how they grow into a role, and to see that they are on the upswing of being the rock star that they are. I love that.
Yeah, the only last thing I would say, I think, is that, you know, in order to be successful in sports, you have to be tied to the money. If you want to be successful, you want to be a rock star in sports, bring in revenue to your organization. That is ultimately how you build value in a company. And I see too few women in sales jobs. I know it's hard and nobody thinks they want to sell, but it's the lifeblood of any company, especially a sports company. We've got to sell tickets, we've got to sell sponsorships to grow.
Oh, absolutely. And sell stories. I think the fact that you're
Absolutely, sell stories.
You know, that's a beautiful thing, because that's how we as the audience feel connected and feel tied in.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at La Vida Baseball, is we tell those stories of those players whose stories often don't get told. So we recognize what you guys are doing, and we appreciate it so much. And congratulations on everything and this wonderful position. We can't wait to see what you do with it, and cannot wait to catch up with you in a year or two and see where the team is, and to get a follow-up, because this is all very exciting.
Yeah, no, I think I'm really excited. You know, the last thing I'll say is we are in market selling our jersey. We would love a new partner for that. And we really want to be partners with companies that want to be daring and do new things and do different things and do things better. So thank you for the time. This is really fun, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. And thank you all for listening to this latest edition of Locker Room Talk. I'm Julie Alexandria for Jennifer Mercedes. Thanks so much for listening, everyone.